My name is Lyndall Woodruff, and addiction has been a part of my life as long as I can really remember. And it's been a journey. Like, so many things have happened in my life. I didn't even realize there was some stuff going on and how big of a problem it was until I not just hit rock bottom several times, but found myself like underneath the rocks, looking up and hitting this depth. I remember feeling like I was in this pit, and what it was doing to my family and what it was doing to my friends and what it was doing to my opportunities. I've always been this passionate, go-getter, positive, optimistic guy, and when I ended up in this self-destruction mode of operation, my life came crumbling down. So there's been several things that have happened to me that made me realize I needed help, and a lot of the times I went to get help was more for to soothe my family, or make it okay with the family and friends, like, oh, he's getting help, so everything's gonna be fine. It really never had anything to do with me. It was not a thing of wanting to get better for myself so I could create a new life. So I was sitting in a Starbucks and I was on the phone with my dad, and I remember him saying, you really, really need to get some help, son. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I need to get some help. I don't know why I keep blowing my opportunities. It's like I'm doing really well for a while, and all of a sudden something good's about to happen, and I just detonate and self-sabotage and blow the opportunity. So I really want to go, this is what I told my dad, I really want to go to a place that's focused on the subconscious aspects of alcoholism and addiction, and what are the underlying causes, what's really, really the root cause of creating these actions, and why do I believe I'm not worthy of success, and really figuring out on a deeper level. And literally 5 minutes after I got off the phone with my dad telling him about that, a friend of mine had called me that I hadn't talked to in years because he'd been in prison. And he said he found my number on Facebook, and it looked like I was doing well, and I'd been working in the music business in Hollywood and doing these things, and things looked well in the digital world. Things were going well, but they kept falling apart. And I said, well, actually, dude, I'm homeless in Atlanta. And he said, well, I'm in this treatment center in Lubbock, Texas, and the main thing they focus on is the subconscious aspects of addiction and alcoholism. The same exact thing I had just told my dad. And the light bulb went off. Everything came together. I was just like, wow, this is what I call divine intervention. If there was any moment that I really had a true connection with the higher power, or, God or universe or whatever you want to call it, it was that moment. And that really was the start of my journey of recovery and creating a new lifestyle. It's all a lifestyle, just like anything. Our habits lead to our results, and different habits can create dependency. It's the same thing with anything. Alcohol, drugs, fast food, soda, smoking cigarettes, whatever it may be. Anyone who starts doing those things can potentially get a disease. Fast food and soda, chocolate, lots of meat can be diabetes. Not everyone gets it, but some people do. Same with smoking. Not everybody gets cancer, but some people do. Same with alcohol and drugs. You open that door, you run the risk of getting the disease, creating that allergy. It's a mental disease that anybody can get. It does not discriminate at all. And it takes, just like with anything else, you have to change some things in your life in order for your life to change. That's it. And if we have trust, and if we have faith, and we get clear, and we take action, then things line up. But you gotta make the changes. You have to.
My name is Angie Rogers, and I lost my son, Brandon, who we called Bubba, to a heroin overdose November 3rd of 2015. And I wear this shirt. He is forever 24. And I hate that my son is a statistic from 2015 of one of the 30,000 plus opiate overdoses of that year. He's a statistic, and I hate that. Brandon was a good friend. He cared about others. I have heard so many stories from so many different people that he knew, but one particular story from the 24-Hour Club is that he had his money stolen, and that, he made the comment, well, I guess they needed it more than I did. So that just says a lot about his character. He cared about others more than himself. I was blessed to have twins. Being a veterinarian, having a litter was kind of a cool thing. And so I had Blair and Brandon, and we were just the typical average suburban family. And I never thought that this disease would ever affect our family. So my son was a talented golfer and athlete. He was a sweet, sweet guy, loved animals. And so when I caught him drinking on New Year's Eve, I was kind of shocked. I was surprised. But it shouldn't have been. There were signs that were there earlier, and I, as a parent, missed them. My son, at homecoming, this was his progression of usage that I didn't find out until years later. It was his junior year of high school, and he had asked a girl to homecoming, and she said yes, and we had the mom and everything. And then she found out that he didn't party. We were very active in our church. He was a youth group kid, and he didn't. So she canceled her date with him. And I had no idea just how much that hurt him. I was with my daughter going to get her homecoming dress, and on that particular day we were taking care of one of his friends because his parents were out of town, and they knew we had a tight rein on our kids, or so we thought. And I thought they had been out playing golf, but they were actually, he took him back to his house, poured him vodka shots, got him drunk, and sent her a video saying, see, Brandon parties. And that was the beginning of his substance use. And I talked to my brother, who has struggled with alcoholism, and he said, yes, Angie, maybe this is boys will be boys. Or maybe he liked the way it made him feel. And those words have since haunted me throughout our entire ordeal. Well, as a parent, I would ask him, why? Why? Why did you use this? Why can't you stop? Why? And he would say, I don't know. And that would frustrate us as parents. But the more that I learned, the more I realized that was a true answer. He didn't know why. He didn't know why he did the things that he did. So I think that goes back to these underdeveloped brains, what the drugs have, the effect that the drugs have on the brain, and impulsivity and wanting to fit in, and the stress and anxiety, all of the depression, all of these things that are on our young people today. I think my son, he was a perfectionist, and I think that created anxiety in him that we didn't really know. We did what we thought was best to try to counteract this behavior. But then I get a call from Plano East Senior High School right before spring break of his junior year, and he had been arrested at Plano East for purchasing Adderall. That's when I knew that we really had a problem, and he had to go to special programs for the rest of the year. Never was I told that just 10 miles up the road in McKinney, Texas, in McKinney ISD, that there was a sober high school called Serenity High. Was never told about that. And I had to get an attorney and fight to get my son back into Plano ISD. And that's something that I regret. I wish I had known about a sober high school. Maybe things would be different. I think there needs to be more education in our schools. Start younger in teaching our kids and the parents so we can recognize the signs. And I think as big as North Texas is and how many districts we have, and substance use is at an all-time high, the opioid crisis particularly, we need to get the message out that there are alternatives to traditional high schools for our kids that can, because it's not a matter of, I was trying to salvage my son's senior year and I look back at that and I cringe. Why was I trying to salvage something that really didn't matter if he's going to end up in the ground?
Now, I ended up selling drugs from 1992 to 1998. And unfortunately, I guess because of my being a young entrepreneur at a young age, mowing yards and selling pecans and cans, that I knew how to manage money and I knew how to network with people. And I became pretty good at selling drugs. As a young kid, you know, people have goals and dreams of wanting to go to college, wanting to go to Yale or win the Super Bowl. My dream was I wanted to be a drug dealer. It's what I wanted to be. I became obsessed with it. You know, I hustled like my life depended on it every day, day in, day out. And I became so good that the federal government lodged an investigation against me. And in 1998, March 16th, I was indicted along with 49 other people. And I was alleged to be the leader organizer, the ringleader of this organization. So, you know, and after that, he just told me, you know, Jason, now I sentence you to life without parole, 20/20, 20/20, 40/40, 40/40, and an 80-year sentence. So, you know, there they send me to what's called a maximum security penitentiary, located in Texas. It's called Beaumont Penitentiary. United States Penitentiary has the nicknames of Bloody Beaumont, the Thunderdome, the Meat Grinder. And the reason they call it that is because you have some of the worst criminals, not only in the United States, but from around the world at this prison. And I think that when you think about prisons, you think about a place where you go to reform at, that if you are a violent criminal or if you are suffering through addiction, anger management issues, that you're going to get treated for that in prison. And I think that's just so far from the truth. You know, and just to kind of put things in perspective, you know, the first time that I ever seen heroin was in prison. First time I ever seen a man die was in prison. Alcohol is all over the place. If the guards are not bringing it in, people are making it in there. Especially for, you know, when you're in prison, people suffer through depression. They get anxiety. There's nothing for them to cope with. There are no outlets for them, and the only outlet that they can find in there is going to be drug use or alcohol or acting out, committing a violent act. So, yeah, I mean, if you look at majority of the individuals in prison are addicts, and those who aren't end up becoming addicts. And then you release them back into society, and how can you expect for them, you know, to be rehabilitated, and on top of that, to reintegrate? After my brother's murder, I ended up just going on this, how would you say, I had this passion of just studying the law and trying to becoming my own lawyer, advocating for myself, and I did everything that you possibly could file whether it was a direct appeal, writ of certiorari, 2255, Rule 60B, I did a Carrilla. I did them all, right? I became what was known as a jailhouse attorney, and I was pretty good at it. 2009, almost 10 years into my prison sentence, I had exhausted all my remedies. There was really nothing else that I could file. The courts, there was nothing I could go through the courts. But I just felt that there was just something wrong as far as our prison system, our criminal justice system. You know, at that time, again, I'm serving life without parole for a crack cocaine offense. I run into numerous individuals in there who, I ran into probably like 15 people at the prison that I was at that were serving life without parole, and all of them were crack cocaine offenders, non-violent offenders. Some of them were addicts, and great people. Not only was their sentence that I felt was unjust, but these were people who just made a bad decision, and had they been sentenced for another drug, they would have been out of prison already. And I just felt that, you know what, I wanted to do something about that, and talked to my brother, and we ended up starting a website out there, and I started putting, we would take pictures of these guys in the prison, and my brother would put them on a website called Crack Open the Door. And you know, Crack Open the Door basically stood for, we weren't advocating for everybody for a second chance, but that door should be cracked open a little bit for individuals who were non-violent drug offenders serving life without parole, who while they were incarcerated took extraordinary steps to rehabilitate themselves. And I started reaching out to a lot of people, and nobody wanted to help me. And basically, if you're a federal inmate, the only person that can, after the courts are done, the only person that can help you is the President of the United States. So what I did, I started working on a package and a letter to send to President Barack Obama. You know, people laughed at me when they asked me, like, what are you doing, boy? And I said, I'm writing a letter to the president to let me out. And they say, boy, you're crazy. you know, they don't let people like us out. And they do have a process called clemency, which was a petition that I attached as well. And, you know, what they meant by that is somebody serving life without parole had never received clemency. And basically all I told him was, look, that I was truly sorry for what I did. I hated myself for what I did, and I wanted to give back to my community. And I had these dreams and these goals of returning back and, you know, mentoring our youth and being a part of programs in my city. Again, so kids wouldn't have to make the decisions that I made of getting involved in gangs and getting involved in drugs. And on December 19th, 2013, you know, they're looking for me at the prison, and I get these cold chills because I'm thinking the last time they called for me at the prison, they were looking for me. I was told my brother was murdered. So I'm thinking that's what they're going to tell me again, that I've lost another family member. And, you know, I'm hesitant to go to the lieutenant's office. So they escort me over there. And this room's just filled with people, lieutenants, captains, counselors, officers. And then the warden walks in there. And the warden says, is your name Jason Hernandez? I said, yes, sir, it is. And he goes, well, I have an executive order from the President of the United States, Barack Obama, commuting your sentence of life without parole plus to 20 years. And I just looked at him and I said, are you serious, man? And he turns around the paper and he goes, I have it right here. And, you know, immediately right there, you know, when I say that you can't cry in prison, I cried right there in front of all them guards and everybody. And I was crying. I was saying, it's over, it's finally over. And then I got up and I said, hold on, are you sure? Are you sure nobody's playing a game on us? This is not a hoax. And he told his secretary, look his name up. And his secretary typed my name up, and she turned around the screen and she goes, there it is, release date 2015, August the 11th. You're no longer going to die in prison anymore. So again, I just start crying. And this is probably a scene that you would probably never imagine in prison, where some of the guards are shaking my hand. Some of the counselors that I knew for a while are hugging me. Some of their eyes are watery and they're crying as well. So, you know, it's just amazing feeling, to get my life back.